As you guys might or might not know, I really love Super Mario Galaxy. Since I made a video talking about the most creative Super Mario Galaxy 1 Galaxies, I thought it would only make logical sense to make a video about the most creative Super Mario Galaxy 2 Galaxies. Like Galaxy 1, Galaxy 2 has some amazing levels that are extremely immersive, creative, and unique levels that really stand out. In fact, it was really hard for me to choose which galaxies I wanted to include in this video because there are so many different creative galaxies in this game. However, I was able to narrow down 3 galaxies that I think are really creative from Super Mario Galaxy 2. Keep in mind that these aren't my favorite galaxies in the game, these are just the galaxies that I think best represent Super Mario Galaxy 2. Before we discuss these 3 galaxies, let's talk about what makes the sequel different from the original. Galaxy 2 ditches the old level style of Galaxy 1. Instead of having less bigger worlds with more unique missions in a similar, but not exact style to Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy 2 decides to follow the style of the more traditional linear Mario games like Super Mario Bros. 1, 2, and 3, Super Mario World, and so on. It also has a lot more galaxies, but each galaxy has less unique missions. Where a big level from Galaxy 1 would have 3 or 4 different missions, Galaxy 2 would only have 1 or 2 different missions. Of course, this is not including green stars or comet stars. Alright, that should be everything you'll need to know going into this video. With that said, let's talk about some of the creative galaxies from Super Mario Galaxy 2. The first galaxy I want to talk about is Melti Monster Galaxy. At first glance, this galaxy looks like another generic lava level, but underneath the surface is much more. For starters, this galaxy makes great use of one of its less used power-ups, the Rock Mushroom. This power-up enables Mario to be able to move at very quick speeds when you shake the Wii Remote. However, you can only go in the direction you are facing before you shook the Wii Remote, and there isn't that much control of your movement while using this power-up. Now, why do I bring this up? Well, Melti Monster Galaxy has a certain mission that uses the Rock Mushroom beautifully. The mission is like a racing track. You have to follow one specific path to get to the end of it, and the only way to be able to enter the course is by using the Rock Mushroom. And once you're in the course, there's no turning back. It's full of quick turns, narrow paths, and precise jumps. So you have to maneuver this course without falling off of it while moving really fast. Now, this is a really clever way to take advantage of the mechanics of this power-up, as well as test the player's skill with said power-up. There aren't really any other missions that purely focus on attributes of a specific power-up like this level does. Or, at least there aren't any levels that have you never not using it. And that's not even the only way that Melti Monster Galaxy uses the Rock Mushroom. It also uses it in a secret mission in the first level with the Chimp, an NPC that has a series of random mini-games throughout the game. In this secret mission, you have to beat the Chimp's high score in bowling. In order to do this, you must get as many strikes as you can. Now, the lanes are broken up into sections and you aren't being timed, so you can take your time, aim yourself, and make sure you hit as many pins as you can. They found another way to take advantage of the mechanics of the Rock Mushroom in a completely different way. Instead of having to test your reflexes like you did with the main mission, you have to test your precision with every move you make in a much slower way. So one mission has you moving quickly, while another one has you taking your time and make sure you can get the best score possible. So that's everything that this level does with the Rock Mushroom, but it also has some pretty creative mechanics and enemies throughout the galaxy. One example of this is the entirety of the first mission of the galaxy. In this mission, you have to avoid falling into the lava, as well as not getting eaten by an enemy that can only be found in this galaxy, Magmas. This mission uses all sorts of different ways to make the lava threatening. In the first section, it has lava planets that you have to maneuver through. The second section has rising and sinking lava waves that you have to avoid while traversing small platforms. And the final section is a massive planet full of magmas that you have to avoid getting eaten by moving quickly from asteroid to asteroid. So not only does this galaxy make great use of the Rock Mushroom, but it also has some really clever lava mechanics that are unique to this galaxy. As you can see, this is no ordinary lava level. It does a lot of creative things that normal Mario lava levels don't do. This is definitely the most creative Mario lava level I've seen in a long time. The next galaxy I want to talk about is creative, but in a completely different way than Melti Monster Galaxy is, and that's Slipsand Galaxy. Now, the reason why this galaxy is creative is because it takes some ideas from older Mario games and adds its own twist to them. For example, it has a mission with a sandbird that's pretty similar to the sandbird from Super Mario Sunshine. However, instead of having to collect 8 red coins while trying to stay balanced, like in Shine, you have to avoid these cacti as well as Kameks that are spamming magic projectiles in the sand on a much smaller platform. Also, the entire bird can be broken at any point. As you can see, this is drastically different from Shine's sandbird, and I would definitely say this one is better in every way. Another example of an idea that Slipsand does better is its moving sand gimmick. In Galaxy 1, Dusty Dune's galaxy has moving sand, but his mechanics are very basic and doesn't really add a whole lot to the level. However, in Slipsand's first mission, the moving sand is used in most of the level, and is used in different ways. For example, you have this section here, where you have to move in the same direction as the sand, which makes you move much faster, and is hard to avoid some of the obstacles. But in this section, you need to move in the opposite direction of the sand in order to reach this area here. And if you think that's the only ways that Slipsand uses moving sand, then you would be wrong. Because it also uses it for a slide section of the level and the level's main boss fight. For the slide section, you have to move on a slide that is going downwards and is getting progressively thinner, as well as having to dodge these rolling pillars, which can be pretty hard to do when the slide is getting thinner like this. Now, both Galaxy 1 and 2 both have other slides besides this one, but this is the only slide in the Galaxy series that functions like this one. And the final section that has moving sand is used for the boss fight. Now, this entire boss fight has more creative features than just how the sand works. Speaking of the sand, it works much differently in this section than it does in the rest of the mission. Instead of it being a method of moving you forward or backwards, it works more as quicksand and is trying to kill you. It actually adds another layer of difficulty, and it doesn't come out of nowhere because the entire mission revolves around this sand gimmick. Now, this fight is similar to another boss in this game being King Lakitu, but it has its own different mechanics. Instead of using King Lakitu's projectiles to damage it, you have to use Squish's projectiles to stun it, and then you have to use the Fire Flower to damage it. This is a really creative fight because 1, it uses a power-up that we haven't seen used for a boss in the Galaxy series, and 2, because this boss requires more than just hitting it once, which I know doesn't sound super creative, but this is a pretty big deal for the Mario series because for the most part, bosses in the Mario games are very simplistic. So, as you can see, this galaxy took a lot of already established mechanics and turned them on their heads. Although this galaxy might not be my favorite one in the game, it doesn't change the fact that it has a lot of great ideas implemented really well. Both Melti Monster and Slipsand Galaxy have some pretty creative mechanics, but they are missing one factor that makes for a really creative galaxy. If you remember my video about creative Super Mario Galaxy 1 Galaxies, every galaxy in that video had creative themes. None of the galaxies that I mentioned so far have creative themes, but this really doesn't affect the overall creativity of a galaxy, but it might make it so it's not as memorable as a level like Toy Time or Good Egg Galaxy. But what if I told y'all that there was a galaxy in this game that incorporated everything from both Melti Monster Galaxy and Slipsand Galaxy and has a creative theme like Toy Time and Good Egg Galaxy? Well, there is, and that is Flipsville Galaxy. For starters, this galaxy's theme is very different from every galaxy I've talked about so far, because it has multiple gimmicks. It's themed around having dollhouse-like planets, but its main focus is discovering different ways to take advantage of Galaxy's main mechanic, being its gravity physics. It does this by using gravity panels, the Spindra power-up, and a unique mechanic that can only be found in this galaxy, being the grates. These grates allow Mario to flip to the other side of a planet. This mechanic can be used for some really unique puzzles that you wouldn't see in other planets like Spin Dig Galaxy and Right Side Down Galaxy. For example, this section here has moving platforms with grates on them. The only way to avoid these obstacles are by using the grates. You have to make sure you know when to use the grates and when not to. Another example is with Flipsville's boss, Glamdozer. The only way to be able to beat her is by hitting a grate that she's on top of. Now, you could argue that Dig-a-Leg's fight is similar to Glamdozer's, but what makes her fight different is 1, you're fighting her on a 3D plane, and 2, the grates are a lot quicker than the spin drill is, so figuring out when to use a grate is a lot harder and more rewarding than using a spin drill is. Plus, the spin drill has some issues with depth perspective, which can make fighting Dig-a-Legs a lot harder, but not because the boss is difficult or anything, but because when I spin in the dirt, sometimes I'll end up where I didn't want to go. And because of the delay and overall clunkiness with the spin drill, the power-up can be very unreliable. Speaking of the spin drill, the way it's used in this galaxy is also pretty unique. Instead of blindly using the power-up hoping that you spun in the right place, the dirt is a lot thinner and is easier to tell where to spin. The best example of this is with the final planet in the second mission. Once you make it in this pipe, you go inside of a house-like planet. Inside of the house, you have to use the spin drill to traverse from room to room, collecting all 5 silver stars. Now, the issue with the depth perspective that I mentioned earlier is not present with this planet because you know exactly where you'll end up if you spin. It's not a gamble like it is with some of the spins in Spin Dig Galaxy. So, as you can see, this galaxy makes great use of its gravity mechanics, and it has a pretty unique theme that I haven't seen with any other galaxy, let alone Mario level. Like Melti Monster Galaxy, Flipsville makes great use of one of Galaxy 2's new power-ups. And like Slipsand Galaxy, Flipsville expands upon Galaxy 1's older mechanics and adds its own gimmicks to them. Flipsville might not be one of my favorite galaxies in Super Mario Galaxy 2, in fact it's one of my least favorite galaxies in the game, but I cannot deny that it is one of the most creative galaxies in the game. As you can see, Super Mario Galaxy 2 has some really creative galaxies, like Galaxy 1, even though they are a little more simplistic this time around. So, do you agree or disagree with my list? Let me know in the comments below whether you do or not. Also, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, a like would be very appreciated. And if you want to see more videos from me, then you should consider subscribing. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Ryan Kelly, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.